seconded the motion that we come out of executive session at 9:19 a.m. And that vote was 4-0, unanimous. So we have our, although we had on our agenda SE7 for settlement, there's no discussion on that item. So now we're ready for PD4 from the police department. So we have our Deputy Police Chief, Zuccarella, here to explain that there is a grant for $49,323.40. So welcome.
Good morning, thank you. So, yes, the grant that we are here to discuss is the high-risk rural road grant that the state is giving out. It's for $49,000, as you mentioned, $323.40. This actually, we understand, will be the last year this grant's being offered. And this is the first time in the last 3 years that we have received this grant. It's meant for conducting speeding enforcement on rural roads, high-risk rural roads, where usually there's accidents and chance for motor vehicle collisions. We have identified a list of locations with the highest potential for that to combat speeding. Most of them are in our large main thoroughfares: Riversville Road, Lake Avenue, North Street, Round Hill Road, Weaver Street, North Street, Stanwich Road, and et cetera. Most of this grant will be used for overtime to cover the costs for officers to do that at the various times a day when we have noted through our strategic enforcement program when accidents occur, as well as when there's the most impact to slow down the cars, as well as purchasing a laser device for the motorcycle unit. A laser device is like a radar. It's just instead of casting a big field out and getting all the cars in it, the laser, you can just point right at a vehicle and single that one out and point that one out for speeding, which for the motorcycle units are more beneficial.
Super. So I just had a question about this. It said effective February 27th, 2025 through May 30th. So have you started this program already, or are you waiting until you go through the full approval processes?
Waiting.
I'm sorry?
We're waiting for the
You're waiting.
process, yes.
Okay, thank you. Harry, do you have any questions? Leslie, do you have any questions? David, do you have any questions? Okay.
I do. Why will this involve overtime and not during regular patrol time?
Well, the patrol officers during the day do this as well, but most of their day is spent responding to calls for service. The post cars respond to every call for service, whether it be medical, alarms, or any other police-related issues. To get the saturation of the enforcement, it's our traffic section does that, and if we do that with more officers to do everything at different parts of the town, so we don't have to, for example, if we were doing North Street with our motorcycle unit, we only have the 3 motorcycle officers that could do that on North Street. Then we have to wait till Tuesday to do Stanwich Road. This way we can get the most amount of the coverage throughout the town. But the officers during their normal tours, when they're non-committed time, they are doing traffic enforcement in other areas, not necessarily speeding, but could be a stop sign, could be crosswalks, or any other part of that post that has issues with traffic enforcement.
So this can be considered additional to what you typically...
This is additional to what we typically do, and it's an initiative that the state started several years ago to focus on, as it says, high-risk rural roads. Greenwich doesn't have that many rural roads, but we do have some of our roads where speeding is a factor in our collisions.
So what is the definition of a rural road? Because you've also mentioned roads that I didn't realize would be rural, like Stanwich or North Street or Lake Avenue, whatever.
Well, the exact definition, I can't tell you, other than it's probably, a rural road is a road that I know throughout the state. You'll see them. There's no shoulder. They're just a road with sometimes a white, a yellow line down the middle, not a double yellow line. Our roads are, there, I know there are names, arteries, major thoroughfare, feeders and all that. But the state is the one who allocates how we get this and was offered to us, so they must have, they get our motor vehicle collision data, and they see what the contributing factors are, speed being one of them. So that's probably one of the reasons why they allocated us some money this year for it. Like I said, we haven't gotten it for the last 3 years, I think because of that rural road designation.
Thank you.
So I'll make a motion to approve the use of the high-risk rural road grant for $49,323.40.
And I'll second that and suggest routine.
Leslie, you fine with it?
Yes,
Routine?
yes.
Okay. So those in favor of the motion made by Leslie Moriarty, second by Harry Fisher, to approve the grant, $49,323.40. So that vote is 4-0-0, and that's passed unanimously, and it's passed as routine, so you don't need to come on Monday evening.
Leslie,
Thank you.
to answer your question, rural road by U.S. Department of Transportation is any urban area that has a population less than 200,000 in the 2020 census or outside of any urban area.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
That works.
So,
Thanks, Mark.
thank you very much. Appreciate your time. Okay, so Roland, moving right along, economic conditions. So, you gave us a report and a summary, which is very helpful. And maybe you would like to run through this.
So
sort of
really not
give us-
much has changed since last month. You see on the revenues, they're all running behind last year, except for taxes. And the reason we're running ahead in taxes is because we had a tax levy of $16 million more this year than the prior year. So that's about, we're just collecting the taxes. But all the other ones are running negative,
So,
which is kind of what we talked about last month.
right, but I'd like to, after we do the summary page, I'd like to go to the, our conveyance and other, because while this looks very negative, let's see the other. Now, do you want to, so that's, we understand it's all going negative. What about our expenses?
The expenses are really hard to sort out until the end of this month because January had 3 payrolls in it. A year ago, we had 3 payrolls in March. So we're going to catch up and be sort of on an apples-to-apples basis at the end of this month.
So, do we have like 2 payrolls in March, or what do we have?
Normally, we have 2, but there's 2 months that have 3 every year.
Okay, and so those happen to be January and February this year.
Yeah.
So, how do you think this would look? I mean, I'm not asking you to project,
Well,
but
the-
you have a good feel for
A
it.
payroll is about $12 million. So if you subtract 12 from almost 20,
So it's
it's 8
actually,
million to 8 million worse. Or spending is $8 million higher this year than
Right.
last year.
but our revenues are 11, so we're building fund balance a little bit.
No,
No,
no.
so what are we doing?
No, we're calling it down.
Going down fund balance.
Mhm. I'm sorry. How much is the payroll? 12 million extra.
About 12 million.
And the negative would then be -7. And, if we were adjusting for that. And our revenues are 11. So that equals 4. No? Am I missing something?
Well, so
Okay.
you're 4 to the good that way, but remember, we used 20 million to balance the budget. So we have a ways to go to create $20 million of fund balance.
Okay, but we're headed in the right direction. Maybe. We'll see what March looks like. Okay, so now we're going to go on to the next page, which is conveyance taxes, et cetera, the revenues. So looking at conveyance taxes for February, it was actually a record, almost a record February with the exception of fiscal year '22 over the last 7 years. Only 1 year has been better in the last 7 years. So I would say, and we have yet over $1 million for 4 months. So we should more than meet our budget for conveyance taxes, keeping our fingers crossed. Is that right? Yeah. Yeah. And then we have building permits. And building permits are higher than certainly the last 3 previous years. So that also should be a good sign for future increasing property taxes, right? Because building permits then should come, or maybe not, depending on if they're nonprofits or whatever. But these are people that are paying. It's not like it's the town of Greenwich. So that shows that we're about $900,000 yet to do. So that should be 4 months again. We should be able to meet that budget.
That's right, we'll meet the budget, but meet the budget, but last year, if you remember, these things exceeded budget, and that's what
Right.
creates fund balance.
Well, with a little luck, so far, and both of them will exceed our budget, but not to the extent perhaps that we did last year. And then finally, we have interest. And interest is down year over year, but nevertheless, it looks very good compared to January. I suppose that is the interest in our collections that we had in January too, right? Tax collections. So, again, in this case, we're only $150,000 away from budget. So we'll see what happens, I guess, over the remainder of the next 4 months. But so far, at least we should more than meet our budget in all categories, which is good. Okay, so now the detailed revenue comparisons. I know you've highlighted on the previous page. Is there anything else here we should look at?
I don't think so.
Okay, so I had one question. And my question has to do with, I don't know, they're not, pages aren't numbered. It's the last page of the revenues, Roland. And it's the one that has the revenue funds. So, Roland, it says sewer maintenance. I don't see a section for sewer improvement. Do you collect both together, or where is the tax revenues that we have from the sewer improvement fund?
We actually don't show it on here. I mean,
I'm sorry?
we don't show it on here. We could add it if we wanted to. These are the ones where usually we have expenses and revenues, but we could add it.
Okay, I think it would be interesting to know it, because I noticed that it was missing. And yet, is that the only revenue fund that we are missing from this list?
I think so, yes.
I think so. Okay, so that was my question on that one. Now we're on to expenses. Again, Roland has highlighted expenses for us, but is there any particular department that we should be talking about? Fire department is spending $1.4 million year-to-date over budget.
Again, this is where that extra payroll comes into play with all these departments.
But that is a lot.
But we do know that fire is potential for for coming back. They identified when they withdrew their request for additional overtime that they're going to manage it and try to fit within budget, but they may be back. And I think Roland and Pete, we're never quite sure where schools are, especially at this time of year.
Actually, the last guidance from Charlie was they were not expecting to come back.
That was my understanding from our meeting, is that they weren't,
But it's close.
It'll be close, but they don't expect to come back.
that was my understanding too. Okay, so, another one is, again, is this a payroll withdrawal, is withdrawal the payroll issue?
Yes.
Okay. Okay, just keeping our eye on these. Does anyone have any other questions? David? Leslie or Harry? Okay, moving on. So, do I have a motion to approve the minutes of February 12th, 2025?
I'll make the motion.
Second,
Moved by Leslie Moriarty, seconded by Harry Fisher. Those in favor?
aye.
400.
And a motion to approve the January 28th, 2025 meeting minutes.
Second,
Motion made by Leslie Moriarty, seconded by Harry Fisher to approve January 28th, 2025. Those in favor?
aye.
400. Those minutes have passed.
And I just want to mention my request to the chair. I know the minutes or the listing of the votes that we took last Tuesday and Wednesday are in process and very close to being done. I guess they're not ready for action at today's meeting, but I would request that once they are finalized, that they be posted as a draft onto the website so that there is the public record for the actions taken by us.
Thank you. And in terms of a chair's report, I would just like to comment here that our next meeting, due to a member's being out of, I believe, the country, our next meeting has been rescheduled for, our next scheduled monthly meeting is being scheduled for Monday, April 14th at 1 PM in the Town Hall Meeting Room. And that is the same day as the BET meeting, but that seemed to be what worked with the schedule. So I just wanted to make that public announcement. I don't have any other comments at this point, except to comment that we've just come through the budget cycle and want to thank everyone for all the hard work, both the members as well as the Pete, Roland, Joan, Samantha, for all their hard work that they had. So do I have a motion to
Motion to
adjourn?
adjourn at 9:37.
Second,
Motion made by Leslie Moriarty, seconded by Harry Fisher at 9:37. Those in favor? Aye.